We had two game sixes today, and the Suns and the Nuggets closed down the series against the Trailblazers and the Lakers. Pretty disappointing for the Lakers, also pretty disappointing for the Trailblazers. It's kind of become the story of their franchise now. The Lakers, though, defending champions, out of the tournament. Lots to talk about. Let's get started. We'll start off with the Nuggets and the Blazers first. The Nuggets pulling off a 126 to 115 win. And I know that you don't want to get to the Lakers, but we'll get to them eventually. Jokic, 36 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists in a game 6 where the Nuggets were trailing by 13 in third quarter. This is why he is the number one contender for the MVP, isn't he? I mean, this is not the first time he's done this. I was looking at the record and it was kind of mind-blowing. The Trailblazers have trailed at the end of third quarter 33 times this season. And the Nuggets have managed to win. Sorry, the Nuggets have trailed 33 times and the Nuggets have managed to win 15 of those games. That's almost a 500 record when you're trailing at the end of third quarter. That's incredible. It's they won this game in typical Denver style. I mean, you not panicking but take it till the end and then finish it off. They did this the entire last season. Twice in the playoffs, they took it to game 7 from 3-1 down, and now they did not go to a game 7. This is the first time I heard in 12 years that they won a series without taking it to game 7. That's a crazy stat. But this is the reason that Jokic is the number one contender for MVP. What a performance yet again. Great performance from MPJ as well. He was on fire in the first quarter. Got 6 threes, a playoff record for most threes in a quarter. Yep. And then off the bench, Monte Morris, he was wonderful as well, scoring 22 odd points. Is this a team that you would bank on? I mean, we kind of ruled them out when Jamal Murray got injured, but they've just not stopped winning since then. And the addition of Aaron Gordon, of course, was a great pick. Austin Rivers, a great free agency pick. But is this a team that you would bank?
I mean, they can be competitive. Look, there's something about this team, and maybe that contributes to why they're so good at coming back in the fourth quarter. It's most of their shooters are so effortless, or they make it look so effortless. Like Jokic, you look at him, it's not like a Shaq or an Embiid. You don't see him and think, okay, he's going to destroy us and drop 40. You think, cute big guy, smiling, big friendly giant. You look at MPJ, you think, okay, rookie looks clueless on the court. Doesn't look like he's very confident, just has this blank expression on his face. You look at Campazzo, tiny guy, what's he going to do?
Oh my God.
With the exception of Aaron Gordon, they're not really a very visually intimidating team.
Yep.
And I don't know, do defenses take them lightly in the fourth quarter? Because it's inexplicable how many times they come back. And for all the talk of other teams being clutch, this is clutch. They did it to the Clippers, right? It was a game 6 and game 7. Backs to the wall. One of those games was like a 20-plus lead at halftime. The other was 17 or 16 or whatever.
15 or 17.
Yeah, that's insane. I like this team. Look, I'll be honest. Without Jamal Murray, I thought they're going out in the first round.
Right.
Of course, at the time, we didn't know who they'd face, but I thought they'd go out in the first round. Then you look at Aaron Gordon stepping up, giving them some much-needed defense, and then that slasher option, whether he gets the ball and scores or not, that opens up the defense. That kind of pulls people into the lane, makes the defense a little more compact. Sometimes they lose shape, and with passing as good as Jokic, you would trust that he'll find the open man. And that open man is MPJ. Apparently, he's automatic from 3. So I like this offense, and I think Austin Rivers is such an underrated pickup. I think he's one of the he's probably the free agent signing this season, late into the season. It should have been Drummond, but that really didn't work out for the Lakers at a team level or at an individual level. So I like this team, but now that I know that they're facing the Suns, unless the Phoenix Suns have an injury, again, it's the same caveat with everyone, right? If Chris Paul or someone goes down, then it's too much for them to overcome the Nuggets. But if they're fit, I would heavily favor the Suns actually in this series. I love the Denver Nuggets offense. I think they're spectacular. But the Suns, they have home court advantage, right? They're the second seed. Yeah, okay. So that team in that home court is something else. They're like the Philadelphia of the East sometimes at home. In their arena, they take it to another level. And they defend. The Nuggets just don't. It's as simple as that. They just don't do it very well. They try. Once in a while they hustle. But it's not really a system that works on defense. The Phoenix Suns, as they showed against the Lakers, can really stifle you. They stifled LeBron James. They clogged the paint. Aiton came up big both ends of the floor throughout the series almost, except those two
Right.
games where AD went off. Aiton was,
Right.
was pretty amazing. Mikal Bridges is a fiend. You watch him when he's on defense. His hands never stop moving. He's always swiping,
Right.
swiping, swiping. You never know when he'll get the ball. And so, multiple players, unless you're a Steph Curry or a Kyrie, James Harden or one of those, you're afraid to put the ball on the floor because he just doesn't stop swiping. He's relentless throughout the game. And Payne and all these guys are stepping up and hustling, man. And Jay Crowder brings the muscle. This is a squad. I favor them over the Nuggets. With Jamal Murray, this would have been one hell of a series. Without that, slight edge to the Suns, but I'd expect them to go through.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Suns and the Nuggets in just a bit. I know that I'm not going to leave you and the Lakers just about yet. But we were talking about the 2018 draft yesterday, and we spoke about Aiton, and we spoke about Luka, and we spoke about Trae Young. Michael Porter Jr. is from the draft class as well.
Yep.
What a find. I mean, how do you even fit him? He was the 14th pick. I think Denver hit a lottery. I don't know, they did scouting or they decided to go for him. He went so deep in the draft. They always do this, right? Jokic went 41st in the draft.
Yeah.
They got MPJ at 14th in the draft, and they're hitting gold with these draft picks.
Yeah.
How do you rate this guy? This guy is 6'9", 6'10". He can hit threes at will. The first game of the series, he went 1 out of 10 from 3, and you would think, okay, he might just not shoot as many threes. They might not give him that many opportunities, but he continues to shoot at a volume, and he continues to hit them at almost 45-50% every game. And what a find. And the one criticism we had of MPJ last season was that he was terrible in defense. I don't think he's terrible anymore. He's not the best in defense, but he does his job well. I mean, there are worse defenders off than him. If you have Luka Doncic defending, if you have Trae Young defending, I don't think MPJ is any worse off than them.
Yeah.
So that criticism, I think he's kind of scratched it away. And he's probably one of the biggest superstars to look forward in the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, it was year one, right? And it was true. He was atrocious in defense. He stepped up at least on effort. And very few players are very good when they're that young. Usually defense is something that takes a little more time to develop than offense because it's not as big a part of college basketball or schools as it is in the NBA, right? So that's understandable. Shooting, he's spectacular. And he's got size. So he's a 15 and 10 guy on his night. But now without Jamal Murray, he's like a 25 and 10 guy on his night. That's borderline Anthony Davis level. So if he can keep this going, if he can add more to his arsenal, maybe a little post moves here and there, this guy could be spectacular. I like him. I don't know if I'll put him in the superstar category yet. Like people like Devin Booker, people like Jason Tatum.
Of course.
You saw them coming from like day one.
Of course.
These guys are going to be big time.
Yep.
I don't know if MPJ is still in that level, but he's pretty damn good. Let's just say right now he's DeRozan good, something like that. Early in his career, that would be a decent comparison. Though DeRozan never shot the three like this guy can. But, skill level. So it'll be interesting to see. I think I'd love to see this team full strength with Jamal Murray, or I don't know if they decide to make a trade and bring in somebody else. But this is quite something. It's the start of something big. Last year was the start of something big in Denver. They continue to build, and as a franchise, you've got to look at them over the last 3 years and say they've been one of the most focused, disciplined franchises in the league.
Yep.
Every move has a purpose. The only thing that kind of didn't make too much sense was Jeremy Grant, but then he wanted to leave. So you live with that. Every trade, every signing, every coach maneuver, every front office, back office move, they've been a franchise on a mission, and it's very impressive.
Absolutely. Talking about franchise on a mission, what's up with Portland? Yet another disappointing season for them. Dame Lillard with yet another MVP discussion season. They have one of the best backcourts in the league with CJ and Dame. But when it comes to the playoffs, they just do not cut it, do they? I mean, every single season this happens. Yeah. Dame has a great game where he goes off for 45, 50, 55 this time. But they just can't cross the line. I mean, it was against the Warriors a few seasons back where they went all the way to the conference finals and got thrashed. Last season, they met the Lakers, and some of them even picked the Trailblazers to beat the Lakers, but the Lakers were just too strong for them. And they made themselves... I mean, they had themselves to blame for that. They finished at the 8th seed. What do you expect, right?
Yeah.
And this season they did well to avoid the play-in and all of that. Meet the Denver Nuggets. I don't think you could have chosen an easier opponent than Denver Nuggets given the situation. That was probably the best chance of going through to the next round.
Right.
And yet they don't make the cut. What next for a Portland Trailblazer? Dame Lillard must be a frustrated man.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like. I mean, it's almost like the Aaron Rodgers discussion. Like every offseason, we talk about how frustrated Damian Lillard should feel, and we speculate about how frustrated he does feel. And then he'll come out, hit you with some loyalty, whatever, and then he'll continue in Portland. Look, if those are his values, those are his values, and you've got to respect that. But from a championship standpoint, he's winning nothing as long as he's in Portland, because this team is so far away from a chip. It'll take 2 to 3 years of maneuvering at the very least for them to even be a contender, and that's ceteris paribus. It's not like the rest of the West is going to go to sleep over the next 3 years. So they're not going to improve in isolation, are they? I just don't see it. And also, if they do it in the next 2-3 years and suddenly become a contender, it'll be one of the most miraculous transformations in basketball history. Not because anyone's not done it in such a span of time. Lakers did it in 2 years flat. Signed LeBron 1 year, signed AD, and then chip. But because this organization has never shown an inclination to do something like that. They've never done it ever in their past. And that's where it kind of like, are you willing to take a hit on luxury tax to put a super team around him? Are you willing to go all the way, tear this team up, make the changes that you need to and build? Because they recently acquired Powell. They went with this 3-guard combo. Powell's move didn't quite work in the postseason. McCollum kind of went cold. McCollum is a bit like a hybrid of what Bledsoe and Middleton were to Giannis in previous season.
I totally agree. Amazing in the regular season, just disappears in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Like just when you need him the most. Like last season, he had a few performances at least here and there where he stepped up, but this was just cold. Could be injury, could be whatever, but I think if the likely future that I see is Dame continues in Portland, is going to be the same yada 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 until he gets old. Another Iverson scene in the making. But if he does have chip ambitions, plan A would be obviously to move out of that franchise. But he's not going to do that. And I respect that. So then plan B is hoping the franchise works miracles. But don't see it possible, but it's not going to happen next season at least. I think you're looking at one more miserable year for Dame Lillard if he chooses to stay behind. He could choose to come to LA.
Let's talk about today's game when we talk about LA.
I was talking about the Clippers, man. They badly need a scorer. Can somebody score in the fourth quarter for them?
All right then. In the second game today, we had the Lakers take on the Phoenix Suns. And this was yet another game that was done in the first quarter. I thought when Booker went off, he scored 6 out of 6 threes.
Yep.
And it looked like game over since from there on. But then LeBron somehow, before that even, actually, AD went off. He got injured.
Yeah,
he should not have played this game.
He went off the court.
He went off the court. He didn't go off like Booker, but he went off the court.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like he should not have been there. I said if he was 60% fit and you pick Lakers would win if he was 60% fit. I don't think he was 60% fit. I don't think he was 15% fit.
Yeah.
So he should not have played. Booker went off for 22 points in the first quarter, 33 in the half. I thought it was game over right there and right then. But LeBron somehow willed his team. I would say it was a great comeback hustle game where you saw that the team was not good enough, but they were willing to put in that effort to make it a close contest. They got it back down to 11, 12 points in the last quarter.
10 points.
And then Chris Paul turned up and he took control of the game and then dished out a few passes, and then it was too much for the Lakers to overcome. Phoenix Suns going through to their first playoff win since 2010.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Crazy scenes. First playoff defeat in the first round for LeBron in his 18-year career. That was pretty sad to see. It was like a big streak coming to an end. It was pretty sad to see LeBron sit on the bench at the end and like this something that I did not see
the Undertaker on the mat at WrestleMania.
Kind of, pretty much. But there you knew that Undertaker was washed up and he was gone and there was no future for him. With LeBron, it doesn't yet feel that way.
No. I want to take a cheap shot, but no, of course not.
But we got to talk about the Phoenix Suns. Nobody picked this team at the start of the season, if you remember. We did say that Chris Paul's addition is going to be great, but what did they finish? 5th, 6th? First round playoff is the max we saw them peak, right? And this team has just achieved, exceeded all expectations. And I don't even think it's a fluke because they've been playing Great basketball. Both on both sides of the floor. Chris Paul leading the team. Devin Booker, what a star they found.
Yeah.
First playoff series for him, 30 points in 4 of the games. 30 plus points in 4 of the games. I mean, incredible scenes for the Phoenix Suns. Uh, should they be aiming for much higher? Do you think they're already dreaming of winning the Western Conference, facing the Bucks, the Nets in the finals? Is that even a possibility? Or they've already achieved what they've set out to achieve?
They should be dreaming about this. The second you take out a weak Lakers team who are not fully fit and they're just not themselves as they were last season, the second that happens, the West is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Because who's the next big thing, the next bet that everyone talked about for 2 seasons now? The Clippers. They have no clue what's happening in their franchise. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. Who knows? It's too shaky right now. So they're out. Mavs, they go as far as Luka can go. The day he collapses, they collapse because it's a garbage franchise right now. Without Luka, it's atrocious how poor they are. Porzingis may as well just sit on the bench for the entire game. The Mavs are out of it. It'd be so difficult for them to win. As good as Luka is, it's like Jordan against those bad boy Pistons and the Celtics. It's just not enough to take them through. Then there's Denver Nuggets, where I think we've already gone into that. They should be able to take the Nuggets. So who's left really? Jazz.
Jazz.
That's the team to beat. That's the tough one, at least on paper and on court so far. They're the most well-balanced team in the West. They have the most distributed attack in the West, and they have a spectacular defense.
Yep.
So that'll be a pretty insane clash, Jazz against the Suns, and that's the team that the Suns should be worried about. But I see no reason why they shouldn't harbor ambitions of getting to the finals at the very least. I mean, this team's good for it. Whether they do it or not is another thing altogether. Execution's a whole different ball game, but they should be aiming at it.
Of course. I mean, we speak so much about the Jazz and their depth in the squad, and at the start of the season, we said about the Lakers and their depth in the team. The Phoenix Suns are quite deep as well. I mean, you have Booker, CP3, Bridges, Ayton, and Crowder starting. Then you go to the bench. You have Cam Payne, who's kind of taken on the leader role in the second unit. You have Cam Johnson, who keeps knocking down those threes whenever he gets a chance. You have the likes of Javon Carter coming in, scoring a few points. Torrey Craig is there when needed, when you need that big man presence, and Ayton is sitting out either due to foul trouble or injuries. That's a pretty deep team as well.
They are, but then it's not like the Jazz though. Jazz have scoring and they have deep defense. I think that's the key difference maker. And they have the sixth man of the year, so that's another big deal. I think with these the Suns franchise, right? We didn't like Jazz. A lot of us said they'd be good. We never thought they'd top the conference or anything, but we thought they'd be good.
And they've always been there.
Yeah, correct. And last season was like a great learning for them. It was a freak series, and they went out, but they should have been the superior team in that series, right? So you said, okay, Jazz, we see it. And then Mike Conley started going off, and okay, now they're really good because he was dead last season.
Right.
The shell of his former self. So Jazz is not that surprising. Suns, why we picked them to be mid-table in the conference and why they rose all the way to second spot is this coach got them defending, and for good reason too, that he won the the coach of the year award. He got them defending, got them playing as a unit. Chris Paul took care of all of the team chemistry, leadership, blah blah blah, all of that stuff, accountability. And in Chris Paul, they have the closer that they never had before.
Right.
And Booker's not quite there yet. I think it takes a little bit of experience to get it done. Like even in this game, 3 quarters Booker went off. I think he had like 40 or something at that for 3 quarters. And then, but when push came to shove, it was Chris Paul that had the ball in his hands, and it was him that just killed the pace of the game. Booker still plays high tempo. Even if the Lakers are cutting down the lead, Booker's still going to play high tempo. Chris Paul just killed the tempo. Every time the Lakers scored a big shot, cut down the lead, Chris Paul would take hours and hours. It's like Nadal, bouncing that ball before he serves, deliberate gamesmanship. But it's like that. He just slowed the game down. It frustrates the other team. And then he knows how to get it done. He'll get to a spot, pull up mid-range jumper, and unless you have a hand in his face, it's going in.
Yep.
It's a death blow to the team. Each time it's a little a micro death blow, if you will, if that's a thing. So he was the finisher, and that's the big difference maker. I didn't expect the Suns team to come this far. I didn't expect Ayton to be this good. I didn't expect them to defend this well. Most importantly, we knew their
Right.
offense would go off. This is a squad, man.
Nice streak they've continued. They had 8-0 in the bubble last season before they just slightly missed out on the playoffs. But I think it's a great performance from the Phoenix Suns team, and it'll be a great matchup against the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets actually won 2 games against the Suns this season. They led 2-1 in their head-to-head. So that's going to be a fun matchup as well. You
Yeah.
spoke about the Phoenix Sun and their home court advantage. They're actually the best traveling team in the entire league. So they've not been a bad road trip team either.
Yeah, I mean
So,
they're second in the conference, so they're pretty
yeah,
good home and away. But them and the way the crowd being a sixth man is well and truly a thing in Phoenix.
true,
The way
true.
I've only seen it be a thing in Philadelphia.
Right.
That's what I
So
meant.
yeah, that's going to be a great series. But where do the Lakers go from here? I mean, LeBron James, you saw that finally you can't always go to the NBA Finals by himself. I mean,
Yeah.
you sometimes need support, and the support went missing. Got injured today. Anthony Davis was missing. Not just today, he missed the game 4 as well, which kind of killed
Yeah,
their
yeah.
chances.
Yep.
But the rest of the support cast for the Lakers don't really cut it, if you ask me. I mean, you have Kuzma, who's been there for forever now. You have KCP, you have Caruso, you have Schroeder, who might not well be there next season. You have Gasol, who's been really pathetic, and that's me being nice. And you have Harrell. I don't think this is a championship winning team. I mean, LeBron and AD were so much of a difference last season that the rest of the guys got hidden and they were kind of protected.
Yeah.
But with one of them missing, you saw how bad they were with both of them missing when they played most of their regular season with both of them missing, and they kind of lost everything. Even with one of them missing, you kind of get exposed, and that's what happened to the Lakers today.
Yeah, they've got to tear it up. There's nothing more to be said. They've already torn up a good chunk of the championship winning team. Rondo went out, Dwight went out, Javel went out. They've got to tear this up, and it's clear that Schroeder's out. It was clear for weeks now. And immediately after the game, I mean, they weren't even done with post-match press conference, and Schroeder had already removed Lakers point guard from his Twitter bio or whatever, which I guess is how this generation announces anything. He was, I think, not very wise to turn down a 4-year, $88 million contract from the Lakers. After this showing, good luck. They might still be a weaker team willing to pick you up, but it's not going to be in a position of strength. So he's out. Harrell, I don't think he'd want to stay. You bring the sixth man of the year into your team and then you barely give him a shot all year. Whatever his limitations are, you knew it. Why do you bring him in then? So Harrell's out. Gasol, it doesn't matter, whatever. In, out, he's on a veteran minimum, nobody cares. They've got to make wholesale changes. I'd be surprised if Kuzma is not shipped off to China after this. I just can't see him surviving in a LeBron squad after what he did this series. So they've got to tear it up. There's some interesting free agents coming up.
Mm-hmm.
This team's pretty ambitious. LeBron's pretty ambitious. I'm sure they'll try and build a super team of their own. I'm sure
Can you
moves are
can you
being
depend
made
on
already.
Anthony Davis being fit for most part of the season, because it's not the first time he's gone down,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look like the last time it'll be down. I mean, it's going to be a consistent feature if you have Anthony Davis in your team. So can you expect him to be the leader, the guy who's going to lead your team to titles?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind of tough to depend on him at this moment.
it's a bit like the Embiid situation. It's just too much talent for any team to ignore. And you don't want to be the franchise that lets that talent go. It's that at the end of the day. Yeah, he's injury prone. So is Embiid. It's one of the problems of having these oversized human beings, which is just unnatural size. Shaq was an aberration. A few players like that were an aberration. Even Shaq wasn't fit for all that long, right? Sure, poor lifestyle choices and whatever, but it's tough to keep that frame game fit for that long. So yeah, I think it's just that it's exactly like Embiid. I don't think he's someone they should count on for long. Certainly not as the face of the franchise, because every season, I don't remember the last full season that he played AD.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
but they've already committed the contract to the contract. So he's there. He's there to stay. They've got to find a third superstar and hope he's good enough to carry the team even if one of these guys is out. This was a bad year, plagued with injuries throughout. I mean, they played half the season without the two superstars, and then AD went down. Because when they were even in this series, when both superstars were fully fit, they demolished the Suns in those two games.
Yep.
It wasn't
Yep.
even close. And then AD goes down. LeBron, today, I was saying this before we start recording, right? LeBron, he didn't look like even, say, LeBron from 4 or 5 weeks ago. There was definitely, well, 4 or 5 weeks ago is too long, but at the start of the series, he was definitely wobbling. That vertical wasn't the same. He was a bit hesitant to drive in despite traffic. He did it when there was no other choice. But you could tell it's just not the same LeBron. And to some extent, I suppose, age and wear and tear. Yeah, it's just a weird season. I think KCP getting hurt didn't help. He wasn't fully fit either. Caruso went off for the game. So just a bad season, brush it off. I think rebuild from scratch. It's a good opportunity to tear it up and start over.
Yep, we have most of our second round games set now. The Bucks take on the Nets, which is probably the game of the
Yeah.
playoffs, game of the series, game of the league. The Sixers take on the Hawks in the other Eastern Conference semifinal. The Western Conference, one of the semifinalists has been confirmed. The Suns take on the Nuggets. Jazz are waiting for either the Clippers or the Mavs, who play
They'll
off the
keep waiting. These guys are not gonna. They'll play 6, 7, 9.
So tomorrow we have just one game. The Clippers take on the Mavs.
Yeah.
Game 6.
Yep.
The Mavs go through with a win. The Clippers can keep it alive with a win.
It's the only game you
picks?
need, man. When you have that game, the NBA shouldn't have anything else on. When Clips play the Mavs, just don't have anything else scheduled. Don't have overlaps. That's all we want to watch.
I agree. I mean, any picks for the game though?
It looks increasingly like the Clippers have given up. They should win this.
Oh,
Ideally,
wow.
I'd love a game 7, but I don't know. It looks like they're kind of demoralized right now. Let's see if Kawhi comes out and plays for pride. Somebody in LA should.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually picking the Clippers for tomorrow. I really think that they'll give
Yeah,
them
I
one
hope.
more fight and then go down in 7.
I
So
hope,
my
yeah.
pick for tomorrow is the Clippers. It'll be a fun matchup to watch. But
Listen, hey, Twitter called it, by the way. They said the battle for LA is going to happen in LA Fitness Gym, where both the teams are going to go pump weights. Neither team has a postseason to talk about.
it's going to be a fun matchup. But that's all the time we have for today, and I'll catch up tomorrow.
All right, man, cheers.
Bye.